while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one in Origins too. I can't remember what it was. It was just another Man of War effect. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, looks like our round 2 has begun. If you're just joining us, this is Top Deck Productions in Mason, Ohio at GameSwap. Looks like we have Smallpox against Soul Sisters Stuff, I imagine.
Soul Sisters Stuff, actually.
It has been corrected.
All right, we got some T's back in the game there.
Patrick and I, in between rounds, were discussing some of the new spoilers coming out for Core 19. Maybe we'll have time while they do their mulligans or sideboards after this to get back to that. So Barrett played a Liliana, plus both discarded Bloodghast and a Path of Exile.
Path of Exile is actually going to be a pretty potent weapon against that Bloodghast. Let's hope Jonathan can pull off another one here. However, the double Soul Sister on turn, is this turn 3?
Turn 3.
Is going to be quite powerful here if we can see a token producer, especially with that Honor of the Pure in play.
Looks like Michael wants to eat it, get rid of one of those. Souled Wardens, a little bit less life gain.
All right, the infamous Smallpox, criminally underplayed, but amazingly powerful. It is a 1/1/1, and it hits everybody.
Both players sacrifice a creature, both players sacrifice a land, both players discard a card?
Correct, and both players lose a life as well.
That's correct. I haven't played against or with Smallpox in a few months.
Oof.
Oh.
Discarded a second Bloodghast, plays the land, gets both Bloodghast back, firing on all cylinders here. Luckily, Jonathan is at 20 life, and the Bloodghasts don't have haste, so it'll save him a bit of life here, but not for long.
Michael just keeps it coming. Goes with the Lingering Souls, which I'm sure next turn will likely be flashed back. He's putting a lot of pressure on Jonathan now. Jonathan down to 1 mana, even though he has a low curve deck.
Oof.
It looks like he's not going to be able to put up much of a fight anymore.
I know he's got quite a few 1-drops in there, but clearly none in his hand.
Collective Brutality drawn for Michael Barrett.
He's going to do that, followed up by likely the Lingering Souls for another.
Looks like Intangible Virtue, Raise the Alarm, and Lingering Souls. No castables without another land.
Jonathan's hand feels very token heavy, so that's why I guess we're at Soul Sister Stuff, which is like a combination of the tokens in Sister's deck.
Right, that makes sense. A couple things Michael could have done slightly differently. He actually had a 2-turn clock had he chose to play slightly differently. I don't think he had to worry about too much of what was in Jonathan's hand, so instead of checking out the hand with the Brutality, he could have just done 2 damage and then attacked for 6, putting him to 10, then playing the Lingering Souls flashback, and then having exactly lethal in the next turn. Unless I did my math wrong, but it looks like he still did it with the Shambling Vent
that
anyway.
Smallpox was going to get there. Yeah, the Shambling Vent was enough to have the extra damage. Whew. That was quite a beating. Only 1 land in play and an enchantment.
Yeah, Jonathan came out looking okay. He had that turn 2 or turn 3 double Soul Warden. Looked like he was insulated a decent bit against that Lily or against the Smallpox, but he missed on his lands after losing his second, and Michael put on quite a quick clock after that.
Yeah, and I imagine this Soul Tokens list is actually going to be fare fairly well with the White-Black Smallpox plan, just because each individual creature is not worth a whole lot, and so those attempted values, Smallpoxes or Liliana minuses, that sort of thing, he might be able to overcome.
Yeah, it looks like Jonathan is fairly well suited for a token battle, and being able to have that attrition, like you said, he should be able to fight through it all right. he appears to be trimming his curve, which is definitely something you want to be cognizant of when you're playing against Smallpox, because very often you are limited to a small number of lands.
Absolutely.
So his first grab was an Elish Norn that looked like definitely something you don't want to have in your deck post-board against Smallpox.
Unless he has a bit of a cheeky way to Unburial Rights it back in or anything like that.
Yeah, Unburial Rights is still a little too expensive if he was running something like that to try to resolve that. Even on the play, I don't think I would try to reliably lean on something like that.
There could be something where add mana equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn, or I can't think of a card that does that. However, that's an effect that might be able to get him up to Elish Norn.
Oh, that'd be great. I think they should definitely print something like that if they don't have something
I think
already
they
printed.
should.
You're going to have to pull that one up. So how much Smallpox or Soul Sisters have you actually had to play against recently? You don't come across these decks too frequently.
I actually have been a purveyor of the mono black rack deck, the 8 rack deck, or splashing white.
I've definitely played the mono black rack deck more recently than I played the black-white Smallpox deck. But I do have a friend who just would never come off it. He just loved playing it.
Absolutely.
He was insistent on it being great.
It is a lot of fun and kind of invalidating some of your opponent's like big end game spells and forcing them to try and kill you with their early game plays alone. But somehow that deck never quite comes together. You get too much of one thing or not enough of the other. Can't close out the game. Oh, Justin's got a card for us. It looks like
Azur's Gateway.
Azur's Gateway.
I'm pretty familiar with this card. It isn't exactly what Patrick was talking about. However, it does add X mana when you have it transformed, where X is your life total. Not life gained, but it is a large amount of mana typically once you can get this engine running. The front side of the Azur's Gateway requires you to exile, I believe, 4 different casting costs? 5 different casting costs.
Yes.
Cards underneath it. But you do get to draw a card before you exile. So it's a pseudo loot, but your loot, instead of going to the graveyard, goes underneath Azur's Gateway.
Quite a powerhouse in Standard. In Modern, I don't know that we have quite enough variety in converted mana costs.
Yeah, usually a little lower curve in Modern. It does take quite a while to get that engine running as well.
So an early Smallpox here, able to take care of that sister. And he's got the Urborg to follow it up to get back his blood gas. So Michael really running on full gas here. Jonathan luckily had another land, so he's still in this game.
Looks like Jonathan still has 4 cards. However, he's about to lose another card and another land.
Oh, does he have a Lingering Souls?
He does have a Lingering Souls, but does he have a swamp? Oh, Urborg on the opposite side. Unless he sacrifices it. Now he doesn't have access to the black mana anymore. Hopefully he has a swamp. He just drew an Isolated Chapel. That'll work.
That'll do it. Oh, but he passes back.
He didn't want to make the Souls tokens.
Interesting. Maybe he's got the instant speed, make 2/1/1 soldiers.
Raise the alarm. That is possible. He might want to do that and then untap and possibly Intangible Virtue. Oh, looks like he's got 2 Ghostly Prisons and Always Watching.
Always Watching. Is Always Watching non-token creature?
It is non-token creature.
This is an interesting choice for what I would assume is a token-heavy deck.
Yeah, I mean, they get Vigilance and +1/+1, but it is non-token, and he does play primarily tokens, or at least so far we've seen, in Raise the Alarm and Lingering Souls.
All right, choosing to lay out one of those Intangible Virtues. One of the best cards probably in the token strategy, just giving +1/+1 and Vigilance, similar to the Always Watching, but for 1 less mana.
And it actually affects the tokens.
Yeah, and it affects the tokens. But there's the Raise the Alarm. Getting some soldiers in there.
I think he may have forgotten about the Lingering Souls in the...
I think he forgot about the Lingering Souls.
He may have remembered and then realized when the Urborg got sacked that he no longer would be able to cast it. That timely isolated Chapel, however, yeah, may have missed it since then.
It's always great when your opponent has to use a Fatal Push and a Lily Tick Down on your one card that made 2 1/1s.
Yep.
But still, things aren't looking great for Jonathan. That Lily is unchallenged here, and we didn't see anything out of Jonathan, so maybe he has another Raise the Alarm, trying to get that Lily. Nope. What do we got?
I think Jonathan passed turn so quickly we didn't even know. He had a Spectral Procession, but not able to cast that one. There goes one of the 2 Ghostly Prisons. He's going to need to remember about that Lingering Souls or draw something relevant. Looked like another Ghostly Prison.
Ghostly Prison, and again, not casting the Lingering Souls here.
He must have just forgotten. That happens sometimes, especially when you're playing relatively quickly.
It would have been able to put pressure on that Lily, given that they're flying.
And they're pumped up with the Intangible Virtue.
Right.
I believe Michael just has 1 card remaining. Yep.
And it's an Urborg. And there goes the other
Ghostly Prison.
Ghostly Prison.
That was a History of Benalia.
History of Benalia. Great token producer. Great enchantment again.
I'm not sure if Always Watching is what Jonathan wants to be playing with. Maybe we can see what his reasoning is for running that. He might know something that we don't.
Right. And a Lingering Souls off the top. Very powerful. Going to speed that clock up quite a bit here. Is it not quite lethal? Oh, I think he has lethal next turn with the Manland.
With the Shambling Vent, I think he does. He does have exactly 8.
Let's see if he has a Path to Exile or some form of removal here to stay alive.
He's sitting on the Benalia and not sure what else.
All right.
Thankfully reminding him. Anytime somebody reminds you about something that you forgot, you tend to have a better idea of it the next time it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So, always here to get better.
So a little painful, but you know, good reminder. It's nice to have. I believe our stream runner is going to look for a backup match, considering that one took about 12 minutes total.
Right, it went quite fast. The White Black Smallpox had just, you know, out the gate game 1, just tearing through, getting all that damage in, and really only 1 land is just draw, go, draw, go.
Yeah. Even if you're hitting the lands, well, it's hard to maintain any kind of velocity when you're getting your hand stripped.
Right.
So you really have to be relying on the top of your deck. And in Smallpox, where they're not keeping you under like a rack, like say when an 8-rack mono black does that,
right,
they still just have so much attrition value. They just, you know, ping you to death after not too many turns, actually.
Yeah.
Both of those games we saw Michael just put him on about a 4-turn clock or something like that after resolving 2 Smallpoxes, and it's really hard to come back from that.
Absolutely.
Since we are finished with our first match anyway, hopefully we get a backup match coming. Our stream runner is out looking for something now. We'll take this time to let you know about Top Deck Productions. Just in case you aren't familiar, Top Deck Productions does have a Patreon at patreon.com/Top Deck Productions. You can donate to the stream, help the stream improve, try to hit the sub goals that the stream has so that they can add on additional requests that people have. I think the current goal is to have some form of legacy on stream, and we're working towards that. I'm not really sure how close we are, but if you do want to contribute to donating, be sure to visit patreon.com/Top Deck Productions, or just subscribe right now while you're on stream. You can subscribe if you have Amazon Prime for free once a month.
For free? Is that right?
Yeah, I recently was told about this. I actually have Amazon Prime, and I had a stream runner that I was watching just show me how to do it.
There you go.
And I was like, oh, look at that. That's so convenient and free to you, and benefits the stream that you're getting some kind of value out of. Hopefully you get some more familiarity with the matchups that you're looking for, or you learn some interactions, or you just enjoy watching the coverage. So since we're finished and waiting for another matchup, Patrick and I were talking about some of the Core 19 spoils before this had actually started, and I hadn't actually gotten a chance to look at them today. But our stream runners away probably won't be able to pull this up. But there's a new blue wizard that was spoiled.
That's right. That's what we were talking about. I don't know if you caught that at the end of the stream.
Yeah, you might have heard us talking before it came on, before we started getting into the actual match. But it's called Exclusion Mage. It's a 2/2 for 3 CMC, 2 and a blue. It is a human wizard, which is a very relevant creature type in this
Absolutely.
current standard.
That lightning bolt.
Yeah, that lightning bolt, that counterspell.
Absolutely. Exactly what Red Blue wants.
And when Exclusion Mage comes into play, when it enters the battlefield, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So, kind of reminiscent of a currently banned card. Well, no longer currently banned because it is out of rotation. An Oath of the Gatewatch card that was banned.
The infamous
Reflector Mage.
Yes.
Now, this is easier to cast and has no limitation on playing the creature of the same chosen name. However, it is easier to cast, and it's a wizard, which is relevant as we discussed. So
also relevant, it's a human.
That is also relevant.
It might slot into some human stacks. Also, it's less than 4 CMC, so it could have you hit it off of Collected Company.
Yes.
So you could bounce a creature and get extra value off that as well. So different possible different possibilities for Exclusion Mage here.
The first thing I see when we come up with Exclusion Mage is the curve from Exclusion Mage into Academy Journey Mage, which is a reduction of cost to 4 if you control a wizard.
Right.
So curving 3, play a 2/2 bouncer guy into 4, play a 3/2 bouncer guy sounds like a tempo deck or a tempo wizard deck. May actually have some potential in standard, and like you mentioned, Exclusion Mage might not get excluded from humans in the future. Looks like we do have our backup match,
which happens to be humans. Playing against Ad Nauseam. This is 2 ships passing in the night a little bit here, but we'll see if David can find an answer to Meddling Mage and how long he can hold out.
Sounds like Eric named Phyrexian Unlife. The jig is up. He knows he's playing against Ad Nauseam. Of course, this is game 3, so he knew that to begin with, but the Lotus could have had something to give away.
Absolutely. You always see those Lotuses sticking out there. Interestingly, you do have to cast the Lotus off Suspend. So that could have been another opportunity for Meddling Mage, I believe.
Well, Eric does happen to have a second Meddling Mage in his hand and an Aether Vial on too, so he can actually put it down whenever he'd like. He can actually do it with the Suspend trigger on the stack, I believe, so he could surprise that if he feels that it's relevant, which could be very problematic for David.
And as a note, Eric does play Ad Nauseam quite a bit, and so he is very familiar to this matchup, which I'm sure he's loved seeing on the other side of the table.
Sin Collector with promo.
With some great art. I loved that promo. I think, unfortunately, it came out right as Birthing Pod was getting banned from Modern.
Oh, I miss Birthing Pod so much. Looks like he snagged a Slaughter Pact, and I didn't get to see too much more of the contents of David's hand.
It looked like Eric was pretty confident based on the quick snap of Slaughter Pact compared to everything else.
Looks like a freebooter in the draw step. It's a pretty solid play. It's going to path the Meddling Mage in response.
There we go. He found that answer to Meddling Mage.
Recently, they made it so that the caster of the Path of Exile has to remind the recipient to search. And if you don't,
it's true.
It is on the caster of the Path.
I believe when that ruling first came out, my opponent had just written on the sleeve of his Path to Exiles, "Would you like to search for a land?" As his gesture to remind everyone that they can, in fact, search.
It's very helpful. Any way you can do it to help remember. This is just REL, regular REL, so you don't have to worry too much about infractions like that at an FNM, but it is definitely good to be continuing board states and making sure everything's represented correctly. And especially if you intend on playing in a more competitive events in the future.
Absolutely. And we did get a peek at David's hand. I believe he has 3 City of Brasses. He might have just played one there. Yeah, so he has 2 City of Brasses. Beautiful ones, that I might add, but not going to be too helpful against this bevy of humans.
Eric just cast another meddling mage and named ad nauseum.
However, then he played his Champion of the Parish, which is the best sequencing.
Yeah. There's one of those City of Brasses. Looks like maybe a dismember picked up?
Maybe. We did have both of the Lotuses resolve, even though Eric did keep up that blue mana. So, tons of mana on David's side. We'll see what he can do with it.
Okay, so the Phantasmal Image that copied the Meddling Mage named Echoing Truth. So now he has Echoing Truth and Ad Nauseam both covered. Looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 is his swing.
It's a big swing.
I imagine David, as most Ad Nauseam players, has access to Damnation or Wrath post-board, so I think that's what he's looking for. Especially with Echoing Truth being named and Ad Nauseam, I don't think there's much of a way for him to get out from under this board state.
So if he does have the Angel's Grace, he could in theory buy himself a turn here, but
True.
I don't know how far that's really going to get him if he has to start using Fogs for his Angel's Graces.
If he does have an Angel's Grace, it will buy him another turn so that he can look for that Wrath.
Nope, looks like he's dead.
Bad beats.
Yeah, absolutely bad beat,
Truth.
and great call by Eric there on Echoing Truth.
Yeah. Maybe he saw it game 2, or like you said, he's very familiar with playing Ad Nauseam, so
Absolutely.
probably was on his radar even if he had not seen it in game 2. Humans doing what humans does. Just disrupt
Playing
you and
small
put a
dudes
reasonable
and
clock
playing
on.
a little bit of disruption, yeah.
I was listening to Jerry Teef's podcast this morning. Interestingly enough, he was talking about humans and how everybody's been trying to meta-call against it and how Jeskai Control has a good matchup against it, or do they? He's not necessarily convinced. But he was saying if he were to move forward and play humans, that he would probably try playing some experiment ones instead of the meddling mages, because he feels like the meddling mages are answerable in pretty much every deck where it's relevant, and that you having a 1-drop is so critically important in the humans matchup that if you can increase your density just a little bit, it'll help you on mulligans and it'll help you on clocking your opponent in the proper fashion, because when you don't have a 1-drop in humans, it feels like a very slow start, kind of like even a mid-rangey kind of matchup.
Yeah, it does. You know, what am I doing with my life? My opponent's playing 4/4s and 5/5s very quickly, and I'm just out here playing 2-mana 2/2s. We do have Experiment 1 up there. This is from Gate Crash. It's a human ooze, and importantly, it functions similar to Champion of the Parish, in which it will evolve when a creature with greater, is it power or toughness? It is.
It is power or toughness. That's how the RTR evolve was working.
The little Simic mechanic from that block.
That was one of the things they were discussing, was that it is a human, so it will trigger off of your Thalia's Lieutenants, or will trigger them. Same thing with Champion of the Parish. And even though you might run into some complicated sequencing where you can't always utilize it getting its counters, it also gives you insurance against main deck or post-board Wraths, because you can regenerate it. Yeah.
And I think if you're concerned that you're not getting the evolve trigger, I mean, you're already winning at that point. That's a success problem. You have a 3/3 or a 4/4 unanswered Experiment 1 that's going to be able to swing in against your opponent.
Right. So they were talking about trying to evolve the humans deck. So people have been recently, the past couple months, moving towards like a Restoration Angel, maybe main deck, maybe not. But you know, it's higher on the curve. It's harder to cast. Usually when you cast it, it's kind of win more, unless you want to just like flicker your Kite Self Reboot or your Metal Mason to change the name.
Right.
But still, in that instance, like if you had an Experiment 1, it wouldn't be great. But if you had an Experiment 1 at the beginning of your curve, or you know, to insulate you against like a Wrath, which is it's playing a similar role, except that it's faster and it makes your the speed of your deck consistently quick, or more consistently quick, because Humans is already very fast.
It is. It does have a clock, despite the fact that it is playing smaller creatures. I think is the Kessig Marauders. We might see that card come back if that kind of works in tandem with the Experiment 1, given that it has a high power.
What was that card? Kessig. It's the 3/1 for 2 and a red that does damage based on how many humans you have in play.
Right.
Kessig's right. I can't remember the rest of the name. Is it Marauder?
I think it's the Marauders. I don't know if Justin can help us out with this.
You haven't seen that much lately. I think some people were still playing one-ofs, or maybe bringing it in the board just for a little extra reach.
A little extra reach,
especially against like decks that are running Ensnaring Bridge, where you can't actually attack them.
Oh, there we have it.
Malcontents.
Malcontents.
There you go.
Okay.
Very close.
So this card can be especially important when it's more of a race and someone that can't remove your humans.
Right.
So you can kind of slam that in there and get in some damage.
Well, you're playing against things like Mardu Pyromancer is moved to playing Ensnaring Bridges.
Right.
I don't know if they play them in the main deck typically, but they are. It was a sideboard package against humans that was pretty efficient.
It's also still great under a Blood Moon.
Right.
It is mono red, so you can just slam it in there and
and humans
do some damage.
does sometimes have trouble if they're not already on the board and they get hit with a Blood Moon. It is very hard for them to cast anything outside of resolving a vial and letting it tick up and then slowly entering that way.
All of the non-basic lands in that deck really gonna make it susceptible, which is why Pyromancer has that as an option, or even just their primary route to victory. We also saw Ponza having popularity, having that as an option to fight humans in that way.
Well, maybe our stream runner will tell us how much time we have left, but it seemed like our backup feature match didn't actually stay on camera for very long. They were already in Game 3, and it seemed to end fairly quickly. It looks like we still have a little over 20 minutes remaining. I'm not sure if we have the possibility to get another match on camera or not, considering we are kind of deep in the round. So we're going to take a quick look, and if we do happen to have one, we will get it on camera for you, and if not, there will be a little bit of a more extended break than there was in the past round before we move on to round 3.
You should play Standard. Standard's sweet.
Oh, it is.
I